We've heard of Chile Verde before, but today is Chile Rojo. For those who are not familiar with either, think of it as pork stew cooked with red salsa. I like serving it over rice. A while back, I mentioned cooking Chile Rojo with some rib trimmings, and some of you showed interest. So here it is. Better late than never, am I right? You can use different types of pork meat. I'm using some pork ribs, which my butcher was kind enough to cut in half. You could also use some pork shoulder, but I always feel that the rib bone adds a little extra flavor. I'm not going to break down these completely, so it'll be easier for me to flip during the grilling process. First, I'm going to throw down a layer of all-purpose rub. Next, I'll be making my second rub. I'm going to be using some pepper, onion, and garlic, and some SAZON seasoning for a little bit of color. Once coated evenly, I'll be sure to flip and do the same thing on the other side. The SAZON seasoning gives it some nice color. These ribs are ready to be seared on the grill. But normally, I do this in the kitchen and sear them in a pan. Be sure to sear both sides, put them in the pan, make your sauce, pour it in, and let it cook and simmer for a couple of hours until very tender. But today, I decided to give it a little bit of smoke flavor during the searing process. So let's fire up that Santa Maria grill. Now I'm not trying to cook the ribs, I'm just trying to give it a nice sear on both sides. The wood fire is giving it just a kiss of smoke, and it'll be delicious, I promise. Once seared, I'll go ahead and remove. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and chop them up and put them in a pot. I didn't want to do this step before because it would be kind of a pain having to flip each of these individually out on the grill. Let's make our sauce. First, let's roughly chop about 8 Roma tomatoes. These are the dried chilies we'll be using. 2 guajillo peppers, a chile ancho, and 2 moritas. As always, be sure to take off the seeds and break down a little bit. The thing about this plate is that it's not meant to be spicy, but the dried chilies add a ton of flavor. We'll also want to hydrate these peppers with some boiling water and let it sit about 15 minutes. These chilies aren't spicy at all, but since we're making this for us, I'm going to add a serrano pepper to add a little bit of spice. This step is completely optional. Let's roughly dice a small onion. Now that our peppers are hydrated, we'll go ahead and put them in the blender with a little bit of the water that we use to hydrate the peppers. On standby, we also have 2 cups of chicken broth that we'll be adding slowly. I'm going to be using 3 cloves of garlic and 2 cloves. We're adding about a tablespoon of salt and pepper and a tablespoon of Mexican oregano. And we're going to blend. This is looking a little thick, so we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more of that chicken broth. And then keep blending. Since our grill is fired up, let's go ahead and cook our sauce out on the grill. Let's add a little bit of oil to a cast iron pan, add in our onion, our serrano peppers, and our diced tomatoes. Let's season with a little salt and pepper. Let's cook down a little bit. I'm going to also be adding some tomato paste. It's about a tablespoon. Now that our mixture is cooked down a little bit, it's time to add in the sauce. gonna go ahead and strain it out. Off screen, I went ahead and added some of that chicken broth over to the blender and then dumped it in. Once the chili pulp has been strained, we'll want to add a little bit of cumin, and let's give it a mix. This doesn't have to cook down too much, and it's ready to be added. We're also going to be adding 2 bay leaves. Let's add in our mixture. And we're going to add the rest of our chicken broth. We're going to cook this until super tender. This took me about 2.5 hours for them ribs to just slide off the bone. The bone should come off clean like this. Okay, it's been about 3 hours and it's time to remove the bay leaves. This chile rojo is packed with flavor and this is ready to serve. Now remember, cook until it's super tender. The fork should just slide in right into the meat and the bone should just fall apart. And the meat is super tender. As I mentioned earlier, I like to pour it over rice and serve, but let me show you another way. I'm gonna make a burrito. Add in some rice, and in a bowl I went ahead and removed all the bones from the rib meat, and I'm gonna add it into our burrito. Fold, and let's eat. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe.